All right, welcome in.
Welcome
Here
in.
on the Guard Report. And the Celtics cracked 100 points, guys. We did it. Took overtime. This was a this
I'll
was a
take it.
game. You know what I'm not going to endure tonight? A bunch of people saying you're being negative after a win. We're gonna call it how we see it. This was a
Say
rough
it.
game. This
A
was
win's a win.
a win is a
Say it.
win, and it's good because they need wins. This was a gross game, and the
Hey.
worst part about it is the Bruins scored 7 goals tonight, and there's a national championship game going on, and we're stuck watching this.
This
Because
was
we
sad,
gotta-
Yeah, but John,
because it's our job to talk about it. So here we
what'd
are.
you say? What did you say 2 nights ago? I don't care about the end result. Just give me some good basketball, and I think you got a little bit of that towards the where
You
it
didn't
mattered
get good
most.
basketball.
Wait,
you got
what did
the
you
end
just say,
result,
Joe?
but
When
What
it
did you
mattered
just
Played
most,
good basketball.
when it mattered at the end, maybe overtime.
confirmed. Josue didn't watch the game. Confirmed.
For overtime, they didn't play well in overtime.
Okay, so
No,
maybe
they
he
played
watched
well in
overtime.
They played well in
Maybe he watched
overtime. Yeah,
overtime. Maybe he
he
watched the
caught the
overtime.
end. He caught the end.
Is
for
the
sure.
previous 48
Come
minutes
on.
where it was not the least bit pretty?
I said this during the game. The only thing that game didn't need was calm.com because I was falling asleep at the wheel.
Yeah.
I was fighting the clock, man. I could barely get through this one.
People were
This
so
game
asking for it.
had less flow than anything I can remember. This was grisly.
Well, usually when you have games like this that are low scoring, you can lean on the fact that, well, both teams are playing really great defense. No. That wasn't the
No.
case. They were just missing shots.
So
And
yeah.
this
Go ahead,
is
Sherrod,
painful to watch.
They're-
But
they're
at this
just
point, if you're the
playing against
Celtics,
really
it's
bad
all about finding ways to win. That's all you really care about at this point. Trying to get wins. And they got
See,
what they
I'm
came
not
for. They
sure
got
I
the wins.
do. I'm not sure I do, and that's where I differ. And this is where we're going to get into it a little bit with like the, you know, it's a second game in a row that Romeo and Neesmith are DNPs, and I'm not leading the show with this. We're just going to talk about the choice here is shorten the bench and really go for it. It was really interesting what happened in crunch time when Smart left the game. Schroeder didn't play for the last 9:20 of the game. So Ime goes from a double point guard lineup late in games to a no point guard lineup late in games, which was shocking. But there was guys we mentioned being out in crunch time like Grant and Richardson, which we liked. I'm not sure if like what happened in crunch time and overtime was positive,
Well,
but
Marcus
I
is out,
guess
too.
so.
Marcus was out.
Yes,
Well,
that's what I'm
I
saying.
mean,
With Marcus out, they went 0 point guard. Obviously, Marcus
And
would have
you
played
could
if that
tell.
were the case. Yeah.
You could tell that they looked
Yeah.
very unorganized in the fourth quarter. And I to me, finding a way to win this game is a big deal for them because to go as unorganized as they are down the stretch for a team that has even when they are organized, they don't play well down the stretch. This was a good win in their minds. But John, I think the point that John you're kind of alluding to is it a good win to win at this point for this team? Are these wins valuable?
But that's
I
I'm
don't.
not
So
sure.
that's kind of where I'm at.
but
Is
that yeah, but
What are we doing here? Again, we're going to argue back and forth every single time and say, you know, play the kids and develop them, or play this garbage bench, with the veterans that you can count on.
we're
And,
not at
and
that point yet.
I think we've been at that point for a year plus. So that's kind of my thinking is what's being gained here.
Okay, okay. I know what you're saying. That we're probably at that point in the macro scheme of things. But like, are the Celtics giving up in the season? No, not yet. I mean, I think that's more of a post trade deadline type deal. And again, like if you're pissed because Schroeder's taking Pritchard's minutes and Richardson's taking Neesmith's minutes, like just wait till the trade deadline because those like there might be some guys heading out the door. I'm not saying it's going to be those two guys, but certainly Schroeder seems to be a very popular name. When that happens, I think you're going to start to see more minutes from some of these younger guys. Be careful what you wish for, too. Because just because you want to play those guys doesn't mean, listen, they just had Romeo Langford starting for like a week straight. So it's not like they didn't give some of these guys opportunities to earn minutes. There's also the part of it that they just might not be good enough to contribute right now. So
I know.
was the
Just, we're
game
just
ugly?
going.
Yeah.
That's
Was
a
the
big thing right there.
was the game
Are they
ugly?
good enough?
Yeah.
We're
Right.
just going in circles with that, though. It's like until you play them until you play them consistently and give them actual roles, you're never gonna know. Reality is probably not. I mean, around and around we go. So let's
And
get
plus-
into a couple of let's get into a couple of choices. What I thought was really interesting today, and it's hard to go crazy negative on him because obviously without Jason Tatum, you don't win this game. But also Jason Tatum was terrible in this game. But he hits one big shot late and got you a bucket in overtime. So he came up in the clutch. But I mean, this was a terrible Tatum game coming on the heels of the Kendrick Perkins criticism where he got really sad and took to Twitter and said, that's not nice. And then he goes out and he plays one of his worst, most disinterested games of the year up until the very end, where it's nice to have a Jason Tatum on your team because you're looking at the Pacers. Who the F are they giving the ball to in crunch time to score? Having a person like Jason Tatum is a luxury, and it's a great thing to have. Right. It's obviously a great thing to have because sometimes you just need to give it to somebody and say, get the F out of the way. But man, did he have a rough night.
Yeah. Normalize playing more consistently. How about that for a tweet? Instead of worrying about what people are saying about
Yeah.
Seriously though. I mean, you know, like you want to get all bent out of shape about, what people getting paid to criticize or to not criticize, to comment, critique, whatever words you want to use. That's what they're getting paid to do. That's their job. Like, let them do their thing. You do your thing. Your thing is to play basketball and win games and score and play all 4 quarters, not just show up in the last 1.8 seconds of the game. And then, great, and honestly, great that he did. And it was a great shot. And he did it last week, and they still lost the game because of that unbelievable, buzzer beater there. I already forget who hit that shot. But
Barrett.
he's hitting games late.
His name's RJ Barrett. Come on.
My bad. He's hitting shots late, and he closed it out tonight. But again, it's like Jaylen Brown sort of does his thing for that portion of the game, and then Jason Tatum comes in and does his thing for his portion of the game. And I thought Jaylen Brown had a great game. Again, I thought he was the best player on the Celtics. I think he's kind of been pretty much that way for the last couple of weeks. I've been happy with Jaylen Brown's production for the most part. Now, obviously, there are times in between, but I think Brown's been the guy, and I thought Rob had a solid night today too.
But we have to address
I was just going to say, though, no, real quick, just to respond to that, because, at the end of the day, I don't think the tweet itself wasn't just about, oh, hey, Charles, don't discredit me like that. I think it was just more about, look, if you're going to give props to my guy, my teammate, just leave it at that, okay? We won. He played well. And just keep it at that. Like the ongoing, pitting these two all-stars against each other, obviously, Tatum's sick of it. And that's what's been going on for the past, I don't know, year and a half or so. But with that being said, I mean, you would think that he would keep on with that same attitude and say, look, a win's a win. Jaylen played terrific. Let's keep the positive vibes going. And I hope that's the case.
I get what he's going to say. Yeah, I'm sure it is.
Well, I don't care what he says. I just wanted you
wanted a 40 piece.
No, man, it's such a low.
Go off.
No, it's the worst of it. It was such a low.
0 for 7 from 3, just kind of like
it was such a low energy.
You got the worst shooting version of, or one of the worst
version. Period.
We've seen worse.
How many
8
defensive
turnovers?
Rebounds? How many defensive rebounds he grabbed and he walks the ball up? He had that one possession in the fourth quarter. I wanted to friggin' throw my, just throw.
We barely made it over half court.
Barely makes it over half court. The dribbles for 13 more seconds, going nowhere. Gets trapped and whips the ball out of bounds, trying to hit Grant in the corner. And it was. I was like, oh my god! So how many times there's no pace. He's not pushing it at all. You could tell after one of the timeouts, he had back-to-back possessions where he got the ball and walked it up the floor. And then a few possessions later, the one I talked about, after the timeout, the next board he outletted it to Jaylen, and they got something going. Move, man. That stuff is killing you. The pace in the half court and the pace, it's an anti-pace team. I've never seen anyone move this slowly. But then on top of that, he's going through the motions of he'll miss a shot and then the shoulders go down again. And even when he makes it, it's instead of I'm happy I made it, it's this has been a rough night for Jason. It doesn't matter. Just go and do the things you need to get the win. Bring it up some. Play fast, play with heart, play with energy. These games kill you when you see them because it's the whole thing is such a freaking slog. And this is the worst of it.
Yeah.
And he's been good. This one was just so bad.
Yeah, this game was tough duty tonight. It really was. Like the energy. I don't know if it's just is that what the Pacers do to you? I don't know. I don't. I'm kind of a Pacers guy, but damn, I don't watch a ton of them, and I know they were missing a few guys tonight. They didn't have Brogdon, and I do love Sabonis. I'll say that still, but the energy was just. I wonder. I'm waiting to hear what Bobby thinks about the energy in the building. Because I don't know. I just it was tough out there.
It was
They got
tough.
it done. I mean, they got it done. I mean, I don't know. I mean, like, people are going to probably complain that we're not, commending the Celtics.
All right.
Yeah, they got it done. They got it
Yeah,
done.
because people are going to complain. People are going to say in the past, if you see the stat line from Jason Tatum, then that's an automatic L. But
well, and look, you got
to probably would have been an L against like any other team.
Like this is a very short-handed Pacers team.
I mean, it was the same thing with the Knicks the other night without Fournier, obviously, and not like Fournier has been lighting it on fire, but that team was pretty short. You had two, pretty bad effort, offensively, really rough efforts. A lot of 20-point quarters. But let's talk about you want to be positive. We'll talk about who did save their bacon tonight. This was a Josh Richardson game. This was a Rob Williams game.
Rob.
I mean, Rob was the bigger deal, obviously, with his just overall effort, energy, blocking shots, scoring, dropping dimes. I mean, Rob was huge. He was huge. And we talk about Tatum and what they did in the fourth and overtime, but this game doesn't go to overtime if it wasn't for Josh Richardson. He had 9 points for the game. 7 came in the fourth. So he was their top scorer in the fourth quarter of this game. So Tatum, great that you made some shots down the stretch, but really, Josh Richardson saved his team's ass in the fourth.
Yeah, Richardson was great. Interesting, like I said.
Minus that foul.
Yeah.
Well, that was overtime.
That was just
that was technically that was in the regulation.
Right.
Yeah, but the Rob was early and often here in this one.
Yeah.
Rob was active. 12 boards. I mean, he was getting up there. I mean, he was. They were looking for him. I think Jalen had a nice lob to him, and he was getting up above the rim. And he looks more like. I think we're seeing more games like that from him than we did for a long stretch to start this season. So I'm
41 minutes again.
Yeah,
and
a lot of minutes for sure.
And you're playing against a team that's got two bigs that you've got to contend with to some extent. And I know Sabonis got 20-something rebounds, but I mean again when
23.
When each
but he
team
didn't score.
When each team shoots sub 40%, there's going to be a lot of rebounds to be had.
I feel like Ime squeezed the juice out of those Ennis minutes, right? Like he got the best out of Ennis that you're going to get. Was that 7 minutes he played?
6 points in 7 minutes. That's and a couple offensive rebounds. You're not going to get him to be more productive than he was in that short stint, and they needed that. They absolutely needed that.
Yeah. But Horford was rough again, and so Rob had to play big minutes. I get.
But you saw the difference between Rob and Sabonis, though, right? Like Sabonis is just like a polished big man. Like his passing is unbelievable. Like
he's an all-star, Jimmy.
I know, but people have very high expectations for Rob, especially somebody in this video right now. And I just want to make sure that you guys see the major differences.
I don't have Sabonis as a comp because he's a bit more of a bulldog. He's also an excellent passer.
Unbelievable passer,
he's
savvy.
More physical. He's also not going to affect the game defensively like Rob is. It's just not going to happen. So
he's a better offensive player.
He's obviously a better offensive player, and he's an excellent passer. Rob is also, I think, on a par with him in terms of passing ability.
No, he's not on par with him. Not even. No. Nope.
Sure he is.
No, Sabonis is
sure, he just doesn't have the ball in his hands enough. But Rob's an outstanding passer.
Because he's not as good. Because he can't handle the balls. Because he can't handle the ball as well. It's not close.
But you think Sabonis had a better game than Rob tonight? You're wrong.
I'm not saying he had.
I'm just saying.
I think Sabonis had a great game.
Take that, Jimmy.
I'm just saying
offensively, no, because I think Rob definitely
was more impactful than Sabonis tonight.
On the defensive end. I'm not going to even.
Period.
I think altogether. I mean, overall, Sabonis may have had more rebounds, but Rob had a bigger impact in this game.
Yeah, but Sabonis does things well. He does,
Jimmy. We know that.
He just didn't do things well in this game, and a lot of that had to do with the guy that was guarding him. Rob.
If we're even pretending to compare Rob to somebody of Sabonis's character, that means he's already arrived. The fact that he's in that conversation, would be. I'm saying that would be a compliment. Tonight, Rob outplayed Sabonis, and Sabonis is an all-star.
Yeah, he did.
So this isn't the night to make this point, Jimmy. I agree with you.
I'm not making the point
Rob's
based on
not
tonight.
Sabonis. Yeah.
But I did see there. If you watch the game, you did see moments where Sabonis was like, "Wow, like he's definitely a very talented player. He can handle the ball. His passing is definitely better than Rob's, even though Rob is a good passer. But yeah, he couldn't score tonight, and a big credit to that goes to Rob. I mean, I brought it up because we're talking about Rob. I mean, I was going to give Rob credit for the defense he played in Sabonis. However, I still think Sabonis is an unbelievable big in the NBA. And there you have it.
Good. Rob was just better tonight. That's all.
I was thinking, how far down are you going to go with this Sabonis Rob discussion? Hey, here we go.
It's a hill he's going to die on. Let's bring in Bobby.
I will die on that hill.
Save the conversation from this debate. It's about to keep going.
Oh, the audio.
Bobby, are we doing the thing?
I didn't even.
Oh, good.
No, I was muted. We got the
audio issues.
We got the music blasting here, so I'll be in and out. But
you're good. It's not that bad. We can't really hear.
We're good.
What are you guys debating?
Who had a better game?
Nothing.
Nothing.
What do you think of the game?
Never mind. Yeah. What's your take on this game?
Don't set him up like that, Joe.
Listen,
Come on now.
I've been saying all week I'm starting to take on the mindset of process over the results, and the result was good here, and the process to get there was pretty good down the stretch. They did a lot of good passing and execution there to get this done. It's a terrible Indiana team. You don't want to be in that spot, but again, you were laying on the ground dead in these spots a week ago, and now you finally came through. I generally agreed with what Ime said after the game in that sense. This one wasn't pretty. Tatum, I thought, was really rough, but Brown stepped up in a role they really needed him to in this game, and man, that stat line, 15 rebounds, what was it, 26 points and 6 assists? He did some heavy lifting in this one to pull a win out of there. Rob was great. I saw you guys had him up there. He saved them in the first half when they were just dreadful there. So against a game that was really rolling against them late, they pulled this one out. And, you know, that's sort of what you're looking for them to do where they haven't, right? That overtime was pretty good. The fourth quarter, rough overtime, pretty good. And Jaylen Brown was awesome, I thought. When they needed someone to calm things down, step up and make some plays.
What's the best part of Jaylen Brown's stat line?
No turnovers. And the
Zero.
Celtics had 0 in the overtime period after 20 in regulation.
0 turnovers, Jaylen. Very nice.
He was a little shaky with the handle at first, too.
Yeah.
So.
No, he made some big plays. That little dump off to Rob before Tatum hit the big shot 10 regulation that got them 2 free throws there was big. He led Tatum downhill for what was pretty much the icer in overtime. And then that nice little 3-man game in the right corner there with Richardson, Grant in the corner who hit the corner 3. And listen, Ime, after all the ruckus last week about the lineups, went with some spacing, went with some versatile players, and it worked.
Bobby, how strange was it that we were the time all of us jumped on Ime a couple games ago was for that stubborn double point guard lineup with Tatum bringing the ball up,
and it hasn't happened since, has it?
But Smart gets hurt, so you're like, okay, we're gonna live or die with Schroeder here, and he goes with the 0 point guard lineup, which was really surprising.
Yeah, no, Richardson came in and wasn't great in this one, but he's a guy who can space the floor and make plays, secondary plays a little bit better than Richardson can in that spot. You'd probably rather have him shooting catch-and-shoot threes than Schroeder there. And Grant, it's kind of a no-brainer. He wasn't great in this one, but you did kind of see how that pocket pass to the corner there really helped out the offense late.
I mean, that was a big one. Jaylen passes up a good shot for Grant with a better shot, and it goes down. It was his first make of the game. Then he misses another one. Actually, the one he missed was ugly, off. Yeah. But luckily, Rob is there, saves the day. With the offensive rebound, gets it to Tatum, gets it to Brown, gets it to Tatum, and that's the ball.
But John, you remember the play before that though? Because I think it was like a minute and a half left, or maybe more than that, but in regulation, and Grant got another open look, and Jaylen could have, or Tatum rather, could have. He pretty much had a layup, but he resorted to giving him that open shot. He misses, and of course, he got the ball back in that big spot. I just think it goes to show that their confidence in him. Yeah, Grant went back to that corner, and that time he was wide open, and they didn't hesitate to give him the ball again.
Even the little pull-up that he had with about 3-4 minutes to go, where he went baseline, and that one rattled in and out. That was a good shot. So that Grant is all about them falling. I do fear that he's going to regress to the mean. He's not a 45% three-point shooter. He's not a 50-something% three-point shooter from the corner. He's going to fall So in order to hit those season averages, you're going to go through a bit of rough stretches to even things out. But he's still better than anything they have in terms of spacing right now. And Richardson probably is the other guy. So those are the only guys that can create a little bit of space. If you're going to make Tatum the primary ball handler or Brown, it makes sense for those guys to look for one another once the defensive attention gets drawn over to them. So, that's and then you might make that extra kick, which they did in the case of Jalen finding, Grant for that big three in the corner. The Schroeder thing is interesting, though, isn't it, guys? Like, do you think this is a movement off of him, just to say, like, or was it just reading this game and he's like, I'm not feeling him tonight? Or do you think Ime is like, I'm a little concerned with how we look when he's on the floor in crunch time, and I don't want to play him right now, even without a point guard?
I think it was more about just this game. I mean, he wasn't very good. I mean, his defense wasn't good.
But neither was Grant, neither was Richardson until the fourth.
Yeah,
really.
But Grant, when he's on the floor, he's done enough to where he's going to create some space for you because of his presence. As one of the reasons why Grant has kind of taken a step back statistically is because he's now on the scouting report. Teams now are well aware of him when he's out there. Schroeder, he is who he is. When he misses a couple of shots, that's kind of who he is. He's going to have games where he's going to go 4 for 6, and other games like tonight where he was going 0 for 4. So I think it was just more of a function of this game. And Josh Richardson, I just thought had a better feel about him. I thought he was better defensively. I thought he was more engaged. I thought he deserved. And without having Smart, you had to have one of those guys out there. And if I had to choose for this particular game, Josh Richardson was a smart call on that part.
And interesting Smart into that. Yeah, go ahead, Jimmy.
No, real quick, I was just gonna say I was a little surprised to see that he didn't go to Schroeder in the fourth into overtime, but he did have a bad game. I mean, there were some shots. I think he airballed a couple.
Yeah.
Like, he's kind of up to his old.
Very careless
approach.
Approach.
Definitely careless. And the other thing was, don't forget the Pacers didn't have like any of their guards tonight, so Ime could kind of get away with not going to a guard heavy lineup in overtime. He could kind of mix and match and see what else. Yeah, exactly.
And that's what's frustrating about all the turnovers in this one. Unforced stuff. Not much pressure from Indiana at all. Ime talked about that after the game. So once you did go in a direction where you trusted Brown on the ball a little bit more there late, he was able to take care of it, which was good. That's what they need in this game. Because, man, how bad was Indiana's offense for large stretches of this one? Like, the only reason they got anywhere off the ground is because you were feeding them easy passes and transition and just throwing away possessions with the awful turnovers. Yeah, so listen, I don't think Dennis is the best ball security guy. Smart was not by any means. They almost gained something in this one by having him get off the floor and be out of the game for good there. He was just awful in that first half. And, Tatum was pretty rough in his own regard. 1 assist, 8 turnovers there. So you needed somebody down the stretch who could just take care of the ball. And that's really all it did take to win this one. They ended up winning it a little more commandingly because they made some good plays and had some good ball movement there. But right now you just need someone to steady this. And finally, I thought Brown did it. Like, I've just been super impressed these last 2 games by what Brown's been able to do late in games to put these away. Big progress, John. I think even you have to acknowledge the steps he's taken here over the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, I think that's part of it too, John.
Yes.
Oh, never mind. I thought you were talking about Ime. Well, Brown too, but I was just gonna say real quick. This is if you're Ime, you've seen what's happened the past 2 weeks been right, blowing these leads and poor execution down the stretch. You can't forget what happened in New York, obviously. And I thought Schroeder, being the veteran that he is, made one of the worst mistakes in that crucial turnover. So I think this is sort of a bit of both. Like if it's close down the stretch, depending on how he's playing, maybe he goes with him, but more times than not, if he's ice cold and he's not feeling it and he seems out of sync with all the rest of the guys, it's important for Ime to recognize that and say, "Nah, man, you're gonna take a seat."
Yeah, and sorry, I went away from
everybody else too. It sends the right message.
I went away from Schroeder there, but him doing things like calling off other guys when clearly there's supposed to be certain motions there is just for what Boston's trying to accomplish. That's just unacceptable, and they gotta stop with that. Like, it's just brutal.
I mean, he does it. You see it from time to time. Tatum will do it as well.
But Schroeder doesn't have the ball much, so like even if he does it a couple of times, it's still a big part of.
I think it's probably pretty annoying, and I think some of the I think the players probably get annoyed a little bit too. It's like, run what you're supposed to run when you're out there. I'm sure that's not a thing that like ingratiates him with his teammates. To your point with Jalen, Bobby, I do want to point out, like, I know you're saying like you gotta like what you've seen. Like, I mean, we're talking about the last 2 games of 6 and 11 assists, but before that, it was 1-1, 4, 3-0 with 3 turnovers, 7 turnovers, 6 turnovers, 3 turnovers, 6 turnovers.
Yeah,
So
it was bad.
right before these last 2 games, he went through a stretch of like five turnovers to 0 assists or 1 assist per game for a long time. He was actually really loose. So yes, obviously this is pointing in the right direction. And it's like playing within yourself, not forcing the issue. But he's looked like definitely more in control these last couple of games. There's been less wild Jalen. Again, the 0 turnovers is what jumps to me, above 15 rebounds tonight. It was like, okay, great, because he had the ball in his hands and he did make some plays, and he was trying to be aggressive at times. And for him not to turn it over, that's a big deal.
Huge deal.
There it is. I said something nice about Jalen.
Biggest deal. We're all stunned right now. We don't even know how to react to that.
We're just like, wait a minute. Did he? What the hell just happened? Did he just?
5 minutes in.
We're already like, nah, John, come on, really? And then wait a second.
Well, I mean, look, we were killing him. He was.
Rightfully so.
He's still over his career a 1-to-1 turnover to assist guy. So it is a weak. It's a weakness.
It's a weakness of his game. Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what you're trying to do, And then on Tatum's side, we're being critical tonight, but he's been good. This was just a real dog shit game for him, And
even
it's consistency. It's a 20-21 team, and the reason they're 500 is because they lack consistency. In addition to, there's a weak supporting cast, but Tatum and Brown, again, you would think with consistent effort should have this team on their own with really any supporting cast better than what they are right now, which is why they catch most of the heat.
Yeah, I mean, this team. It feels like this team should be. I mean, certainly not top 2 or 3 in the East, but at least a couple games over
comfortably in the playoff picture and not friggin' slugging it out in the 10 slot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, I'm emphasizing how early Brown is in this. Like he's talked about in recent weeks, just how much extra time he spent in the film room, how much he's going. I think they watched the whole Timberwolves game over with Joe Mazzulla there a couple weeks ago, where he was just a disaster in that loss. He had some real rough ones, and for him to get up and be this great at it so shortly after that, I think is encouraging. Because again, with him, I keep emphasizing, I'm not saying these guys are young. I'm not saying that they're not experienced. I'm saying that they're not experienced in this role, playmaking and leadership, 2 things that I think they have to make massive strides in, and we're starting to see little ones. And I think each step that they make in that area, as long as they keep going forward, are going to be important. Like Brown can't go back to the turnover mess after this. That would be bad. But I'm appreciating each small step that he takes forward in that regard. Because listen, I know we'll probably talk a little bit later in the show about some of the things that the Celtics might sell off toward the end of this year. The responsibility for Tatum and Brown as ball handlers is only going to grow as this year goes on, as Schroeder, I would imagine, ends up out of here at some point before the deadline. And who knows what happens with Smart and some of the other guys that are, reportedly available now. So this is a role for these 2 guys that's only going to grow. And they got to get more consistent with it pretty quickly here. And that's what this year, to me, at this point, is all about. It really is. Like, where these guys stand as playmakers by the end of the year is going to decide how successful this season is for me. Not where they win in round 1 or lose in round 2 or, get through the play-in tournament. The individual progress and this collective progress on the team on this front in terms of playing together is going to be what's most important for me. If they lost this game, I still would have felt pretty good about how they played late.
Really?
I'm not as concerned about the results anymore. Like, I just want to see them start to play good.
Yeah, this didn't feel good. I mean,
no.
Wait.
I mean, okay.
The other issue I kind of have is
I think he's gonna follow that up with something.
I still just very late, like the last 1.8 seconds of the fourth quarter into overtime.
Right. They played bad for 47.
How bad have they been
47 minutes. Yeah, 47 minutes. And 57 seconds.
Yeah. He did say late.
Overtime,
but the rest was great.
Say late. Yeah.
Don't play him.
They have been horrific in those spots, and now tonight they got through on their feet. That's progress.
Look. You need I mean, again, what are we talking about? They're 3-11 in games decided by 5 points or less. You need a couple of these, right? You can't lose every single one of them. So yes,
it was almost perfect. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. We would have been dogging them like crazy if they lost this game.
So yeah, to play like dog shit and execute a little late is probably better than playing pretty well for most of a game and absolutely collapsing and puking on yourself in the last 5 minutes. So yes, that's something that absolutely you can notch in the positive column. When they needed it, they got it. They got blocks, they got rebounds, and they got critical buckets. You know, those are huge. So, you know,
I mean, you shot below 40% from the field, below 30% from three, and you still somehow won the 20 turnovers. Your turnovers were over your assists, and you still somehow won this game. Like this has to be this has to be the only game. I would like to know the stats. Like go to Basketball Reference and just figure out like how many games they've actually won with those numbers. It cannot be many in the last 5 years.
20 turnovers and 17 assists.
Yeah, and sub 30% from three, sub 40% from the field. Like you just don't win those games.
The team was Marcus Smart from the field and Jaylen Brown with the assist to turnover ratio tonight.
Yeah, so absolutely you take the win, but like just slow down on like they played really well tonight and like you were happy with the way they played. Like I'm not going there yet. Now when you talk about playmaking and how the season's going to dictate, you know, how well they become as playmakers, like so. What direction are they going in? Because if you're going to trade guys who are, you know, helping them win, and you're going to play the kids, and you're going to do all this stuff
helping them win? They're not winning at all right now.
But if theoretically you're,
I don't even need to be on this show anymore if Bobby's taking this tact. This is great.
Right.
I mean, theoretically, to me at this point.
If Bobby's adopted this mentality, I can retire now.
No, I'm actually right in line with John on this.
But you're expecting Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown to become playmakers, and playmake for who? You're trading away anybody who can help them. I mean, so it's like, and how frustrating is it going to be for them to again? This is like the Kemba Walker situation all over again. Take a player, take away what he does well, and try to make him do something that he's not good at doing, and then it doesn't go well, and then you lose more and more games. It's like we have to stop trying to make these guys become playmakers. Instead, try to get the guys around them that's going to make them best at what they do already well. Like Jaylen Brown's not a playmaker.
Yeah, look, there's no question.
Like he's not just going to become a playmaker.
No, what Jimmy said is the right of it. There's no question about that, guys. Like, and this is the.
So you want to keep Schroeder and just let that run out?
That's not what I'm saying.
No, Bobby. Look. You're both right. I would rather play the kids and take some L's to see if you have something in them, but I wanted to do that last year. Ime's a first-year coach coaching for his, you know, reputation. It's really hard for him to say,
job too.
I don't care about wins and losses.
That's what frustrates me.
It's
really hard when you have two All-Stars under the age of 25. Like, that's what,
and I understand the thing there.
But this is the point guard thing is really the whole ball game, and this is what it comes down to is where you're having Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown run your offense late in games because you have to, you know, and that's just not the position you should necessarily be in. Like when those guys, if you're LeBron James, yes, you want the ball in his hands, but these are scorers. You want people to find them, you know. You don't necessarily want them to always have it. So this is what frustrates me the most about like Celtics dialogue these days. It's this crazy defensive Marcus Smart as a point guard and how good he is and how he doesn't get enough credit. Plus also saying their number one need is a playmaking point guard. Like it's not a knock on Marcus to say they need a point guard. Marcus Smart is terrific at a bunch of different things, but they need an upgrade at that position. That would be the first thing. If you want to win, you do whatever. So yeah, can you sell every kid, draft picks and everything and upgrade yourself at the point guard position? Yeah, I would take that.
I don't think so, right?
But I don't think he's giving up on that. You think he's giving up on Marcus Smart being the point guard of this team?
No, he's going to start at the point guard because it's the best thing that they have.
I hear what you're saying, but as he continues to evolve and get comfortable with the position,
if he can get a point guard, Josue, he would.
If he could,
definitely.
But that's a huge if. That's a
I know
huge
it is.
break.
Well, you just asked me. You just said if though. It is if.
Right, but I don't think
piss Jimmy off tonight. He's ornery.
I don't think Ime's thinking like that though. I think Ime's thinking, trust this process and Marcus will figure it out. I don't think he's ready to ship him out of here or at least bring in another point guard to replace his duties.
It's tricky because he's so good at defense. He's giving you what you need on that end. Offensively, he's so often relegated to the two guard, especially when you have Brown and Tatum on the ball there. And really, he's not all that useful off the ball. He'll cut sometimes. He can't catch and shoot. So you're in a tricky position in terms of consistently having him be a productive part of this offense. But he is a sharp secondary passer a lot of the time. He keeps ball movement going. There's a lot of things that Smart helps you with right now. and he doesn't necessarily get you score to upgrade at point guard. So developing Brown and Tatum are so important because you don't have the ability to go out and get Lowry, Paul, Ball, all these guys that we dream of coming in and saving this team. I think Ime, Brad, they know where they are as an organization right now. These are probably the conversations they had in hiring him. And essentially the only path out of this is to get those guys going as playmakers. And I think they understand that. This is kind of what Kawhi and George went through out in LA. I think that's a great comparison. And it's going to take some time here. Now, they can do some things to make it easier. I'm not saying get rid of Rob and like shooters and anything they have here. But right now, with what we've watched this year, are Richardson and Schroeder and these guys that we potentially look at selling off here really helping them that much? Like, we have what we have in terms of their offensive production and the team's record at this point. These guys don't accentuate them that well. So you got to swap them out, move some minutes toward younger guys, a shooter like Pritchard. Maybe you bring somebody.
They would be much worse. Believe it or not, they would be much worse than they already are without those two guys this year. They'd probably have 6 more losses, probably.
Real quick, don't bring the Pritchard debate to the show because you guys were going at it in the group chat. I don't know if John's going to bring it up, but it's probably going to come up organically right now, I guess. But
John, if they
Pritchard?
if they trade Schroeder and maybe you keep Richardson in the offseason because he's out. Let's just say they trade Schroeder. Are you that much worse?
Look, Bobby, that's not the argument. I've been saying that. What I'm saying is there's one argument to not worry about wins and losses and develop talent because that's going to be more important to you in the future, which is what we've been saying since last year. I don't believe Pritchard is someone who needs developing as much because he came into the league more of a finished product. So I don't believe he's being hurt by sitting. When he comes in, he can do what he does. I think Romeo and Nesmith are being destroyed. And again, this is the nuanced argument. I don't think Romeo and Nesmith are terrific, and they might not ever be even good or serviceable, but you are absolutely destroying any chance you have of developing their careers by doing what you're doing to them right now, destroying them. So it's a matter of what you value as an organization. If it's important to develop high first-round picks, and they are, okay? They're not upper lottery, but these are valuable
14,
picks.
Right? Yep.
14. Okay, this isn't trash, and they are early in their careers. You develop them because it's important to have that kind of balance on your roster and develop these assets because you don't get a lot of cracks at them.
And guess what?
Or you literally just piss them away, just throw them away, which is what they're doing right now.
I'm with you there, and
that's what kills me is you're literally just setting them on fire. It's just burning assets. It doesn't mean they're going to be good or better. Your record might be worse, but you're just killing these guys. You're killing them.
You are.
And they did it last year too. And they might be busts, guys. I know there's people in the chat who think so. Nobody on this room right now is super bullish on any of these guys to be anything beyond a rotational player. Nobody,
and
okay?
Jimmy, I think John mentioned, or one of you mentioned the prospect of Brad helping Ime's job or helping him hang in there, this and that when it comes to that roster decision. You have some huge big picture issues right now that you have to sort out, and you're not really accomplishing anything. I don't think he's taking the heat off Ime at all by being able to squeeze out some wins against the shorthanded Pacers and the shorthanded Clippers and just all these teams that they've been going toe-to-toe with. These last 2-3 weeks should have showed you that this roster as constituted isn't very good. These battles with the Knicks, like this team is playing down to some really bad competition over the last month here. So that has to be a signal more than anything here to do exactly what John said. Break this down a little bit, add whatever you can, see what you have by the end of the year, and then you can really, really start to make some big picture decisions by the end of the year. If they just toe the line here throughout again, what are they accomplishing? I keep asking this. Like, they aren't going anywhere. They aren't.
So that's
but you know what? At the same time, though, they can go ahead and do all those things that you said. I don't think that changes their big picture at all. Whether or not Romeo and Nesmith and Pritchard, those guys get minutes or not, even if they have good rest of their seasons, there's no big factor into it's not like they're here because the Celtics haven't wanted to get rid of them or can't get rid of them. They're just here because they're filling roster spots right now. So I really don't think they are a huge part of this future, one way or the other. I'm all for giving them minutes. I'm fine with that, and if that means trading Schroeder, I get it.
Dump him for a bench veteran. For real.
Yeah, but also, guys, if
fine.
one of them
They probably
if one of them
would.
isn't part of the future, though, that's terrible, right?
But that's what's killing you right now,
Yeah.
Jimmy.
They struck out already with other picks, and then they sold the second rounders, last for the
they're
Fournier
bad at
trade.
drafting.
You play them and develop
for
them,
2 months of Fournier,
or dump them. They do nothing for you because
you're right.
they're not.
Get rid of them.
Dump them for a bench. Dump them for a bench asset if you're worried about wins and losses. But I think that's absolutely selling as low as you possibly can, and it's guaranteeing mediocrity. It's just guaranteeing it. So that's what hurts you there. Like
they already started, right? They got rid of Parker to save some money. They can get rid of Schroeder to save some money. If that's the driving motivation there, I'm actually fine with it because listen, no one cares about the WIC tax and all that stuff, but you're just breaking down the roster a little bit, making Ime rely on young guys just a little bit more in that spot. And I don't think it hurts Brown and Tatum's development all that much. I don't think there's a huge difference between the lower guys and some of the veterans that they're relying on right now. In fact, Grant's kind of that middle ground between them, and he's been fine for them as a supporting piece.
Grant's been solid.
Yeah, so...
No, but you just run the risk of frustrating. Again, we've talked about this ad nauseum too. You run the risk of being so bad over so much time where these guys don't want to play for you anymore. You can't just rebuild around these guys for the next 2-3 years. They're going to say see you later.
I have a different view of how much worse it'll be, though. Like, this isn't good at all.
That's what I was saying, is how much worse would it... The bench was awful tonight.
It might be better.
Until very late in the fourth. Are you telling me if you decided not to play any of the guys on the bench tonight and went with, let's say Pritchard was healthy, if instead of Richardson, who was fine late, and Schroeder,
yeah,
and Ennis even, you gave some minutes to Romeo and Nesmith. You think this game is hugely different tonight?
We just said Richardson was one of the reasons they won tonight, didn't we?
Very
didn't
late,
we say
but
that?
he was a no-show for most of the game.
He doesn't do anything extraordinary.
Yeah.
Fine, but we already know that Romeo is a zero on offense. We know that Nesmith can't hit a shot, and Pritchard's the point guard. Yeah, could Pritchard have helped? Yeah, sure, but
sometimes
play tonight. He can't play, so he's out. He's out.
For a game like this, you didn't need a guy to be extraordinary. You needed him to do what was necessary. And in the fourth quarter, they needed someone to make shots because you look at the numbers. I mean, Jalen made a big shot, but he wasn't making that many shots, and Tatum wasn't doing that. They needed someone to do the necessary work to get the win, and that was Josh Richardson in the fourth.
Yeah, and we've said this earlier this year. The difference between this year and last year, it's not really showing up in the records. Absolutely, that's true. But they actually do have capable bench players this year when they play up to their standard. Whether it's Schroeder, Richardson, whoever else.
Which is why they have more depth. Bad things about Schroeder, by the way. That's why.
So I understand what you guys are saying. I can see both sides of it. I guess I'm just waiting to see which direction the Celtics decide to go in. Whichever direction that is the direction they decide to go in. But we're all sitting here wondering which way it's going to be because they're a middle-of-the-road team.
Trade everyone.
Either way, they're not going to be really good and they're not going to be really bad. So you're right. Whichever way they decide to go, it's going to be a middling season. And like we've said, it's the worst place you can be.
I'm okay.
Right. But I think what most Celtics fans are hoping on, Jimmy, is that somehow they can bring in a couple of bench guys, experienced bench guys, and consolidate those young guys along with picks. But to John's point, I mean, what's the value in guys like Romeo and Nesmith right now? They've probably diminished, if anything.
None. The guy.
There's no value in Romeo and Nesmith.
The guy I want.
So build it.
There's not a path to getting him right now, I don't think.
So build it, right, John?
We're doing the mic thing again.
So build it, or continue to lower it. I mean, John, again, they just started Romeo for how many games in a row, and
I
he's
just want to say for the
nothing.
record, I still think it's because he's not putting the mic closer, but it's just me.
It's definitely a plug issue, I think. Anyways,
yeah, it's a plug issue.
If you want to build it, that's fine. You can play him, but it's not like, again, Romeo gets minutes. He's kind of one-dimensional. He's the only guy right now who doesn't do anything for you on offense. Pritchard, again, I would play Pritchard more. I'm fine with playing Pritchard more. If that means trading Schroeder, I think we all are just waiting for that to happen at this point. I don't think you're trading Schroeder to really get anything for him. I mean, maybe you'll get a second-round pick or something. You're not going to get a first-round pick. And that allows Pritchard to play more. Does that cost you at certain points in the game? I guess we'll find out. But does it matter? Probably not. I mean, if you're a fringe playoff team one way or the other, then it is what it is.
I think after the trade deadline, you're going to see one of those guys. You'll see a lane open for one of those guys to getting playing time, getting increased playing time. But does that mean the Celtics is going to dramatically change their season? Well, it depends what kind of move they make. So we'll see. But I don't think the Celtics. I think they know they have one of those guys, whether it's in Pritchard or Romeo or Nesmith. I think one of them will crack this rotation by the end of the season or around that time after the trade deadline.
Yeah, and if that increases their value enough where they can get tossed into a trade that, if anything, they're salary matching, and you take a flyer on a guy on a low deal, short money, but these aren't obviously, this isn't breaking news. They're not centerpieces of any trade. The guys that you have that aren't Jalen and Jason that have value, Rob, Marcus, I guess Al Horford's contract comes into play as valuable. There's not a lot of assets about this for the last couple of years too. There's not a lot of tradable assets. If you're not trading Tatum and Brown, you're stuck with a team like this. You don't have any cap room and you don't have the talent to get the pieces that you need.
Yeah. At what point do you start? You guys hear me?
Yeah.
At what point do you start to think about the future here? Because I think it's just screaming at you. Like, you got to start to make some forward-facing moves here, even as a on-court product here. That's why I'm with John. These guys aren't necessarily going to save you in the short or long term. You just have to find out for the sake of making decisions on them. Is Nesmith part of what we're doing here beyond this year? Is Romeo certainly?
You don't know because you haven't found out.
And that's what you're trying to find out, Jimmy. You're not hoping these guys can save you. You're not hoping that they become these major trade chips. You just want to start to change some things here going forward, because what you've done the last 2 years hasn't worked, and they've been a big part of it. Their complete inability to impact this team. Grant's done it mildly here over the last season. You appreciate that. Pritchard is starting to get involved again too, and I think he's proved pretty solidly that he's a pro. So where the other two guys stand? They send Nesmith down the main for a game. He looks all right. He comes back this morning and says his shot just isn't there at all right now, which when you draft him for that, and that's what you hear in year two, you're really worried about where that's going. So
was he saying that, Bobby?
Yeah, he said, my shot's not where it needs to be.
Yeah. He's searching right now, clearly.
Yeah. And I saw him in warm-ups before the game here today. He didn't look sharp. A lot of catch-and-shoot drills off movement. They put him in a bunch of different spots out there, and doesn't look great. And I think we've been looking at that shot for the last year or so here and saying, like, that doesn't look like a pure shot. And how many open looks does he get when they put him into the games? I think a lot of people look at him as an obvious no-brainer solution to some of their issues that they're not tapping into here, but you watch what he's doing when he's out there. He shot 2 of 7 in Maine from deep last night. He wasn't going up there and shooting lights out from deep by any means. Decent mid-range looks, gone to the lane a little bit, but the three there is just not there.
And it's sad because, he has one job. Like, literally, when they drafted him, they wanted him to do one thing well: make shots. It's a dream job for almost damn near anyone who plays the game. You're drafted to make shots. And it's literally the one thing he doesn't do. It's literally the one thing he has gotten.
But he's also not getting the playing time neither, though.
That's the problem.
Listen,
he got his
tired of the playing time as a cop-out or a justification why guys aren't getting it done. Ennis Cantor showed you the blueprint of what happens when you don't get a lot of playing time. You know what you do? You make the most of the time you get. He played 7 minutes at 6 points. That's what you do as a pro. You can't control how much playing time you get. All you can do is control what you do with the time you do. And he's not doing enough.
You know where you get unlimited
but yeah,
time?
I understand.
He sounds like
unlimited time as a young player to just go out there and do whatever the hell you want. Detroit, Orlando, who else do I have to call on that regard? That's where you get that kind of run. Who else in the NBA is just shoveling minutes to a struggling young player, trying to get him going? Like, some teams integrate them more firmly into the rotation. Sure, I do think there's ways that they could put Nesmith in better positions to succeed. I just don't think there's any world where he's playing 25 minutes a night, playing the way that he's playing right now. On this team right now, if you make some roster changes and force that, sure, those are the long-term decisions that Brad really has to make at the top there. But for Ime, who is Neesmith warranted of playing over right now? Even Romeo's got an edge on him. So he is just at the bottom of the barrel right now in terms of priority for minutes. I know they have a shooting need, but this is what Ime said the other day. The guys
I'd leave him in Maine then.
Yeah. They don't play a lot either, which is the trouble.
I don't get it. Like I said, the options are.
He should have been there since Christmas or around.
He should have been there. He should have been there this whole time because you have no intention of playing him. It's useless to have him here. If you need a shooter, keep Hauser up here. And you have somebody come off.
You know what, John? That's a really good point. Real quick, especially from someone like Brad Stevens, who obviously has a say in the matter, and he was the coach that saw what happened with Terry Rozier and how that worked for him. Going down there, spending months, before coming back and becoming Scary Terry. And other guys who benefited from stints in the G League. That's a good point.
Yeah. So that's what I would do. Is do the three options are you force the issue and play them because you're trying to develop them here, or you recognize they can't do it at this level, so you get them down there to build confidence. Or three, you just cut bait. But having them here on the roster, on your bench, and not playing them at all is absolutely the only thing you don't do. It makes no sense. So that's the one thing I'm just baffled by at this point. And again, I would rather take L's and see if these guys are good and find out that they're not. What's the worst thing that happens? What's the worst thing that happens? You miss the playoffs and you get a lottery pick? Who cares? What's the best thing that happens if you don't play them?
Oh, wait, what's the other part of that worst case scenario?
You end up in the play-in game.
No, worst case, John, is that worst case is that you suck whatever little life is left out of Tatum and Brown in a miserable season, and they go into the offseason just completely done with everything. That's worst case.
And they call Brad and say, hey, by the way, we're not feeling this Ime guy. Sorry.
But did what they do last year invigorate those guys and make them feel great? You just towed the line the whole way and you bowed out. And that's exactly what would probably happen if you play this thing out.
I guess, yeah. Brown went down. Last season was rough too.
Fair point. That's a big difference. Brown was out.
That's the thing. Yeah, we never got to see
they still would have lost to the Nets anyways, but it was a tough year. It was a tough year last year. Injuries and COVID all the way through into the playoffs. This year is really not much different, but everyone's waiting on them to catch some sort of lightning in a bottle and go on some kind of run. Do I see it? Certainly not right now, no. But if you throw the white flag, throw the towel in, and just play the kids, then that kind of sends a message that you're not really. It's just tough to send that message to Tatum and Brown at this early into the season.
Especially if you're Jaylen Brown, because you didn't get to play in that series against the Nets, right? We talk about this all the time about Jaylen and Tatum. The fact that they're both leading this team for the very first time. That technically was last season, and we didn't get to see how that ended. So now, for them to sort of wave the white flag, what kind of message would that send to them, especially someone like Jaylen? It's well, wait a minute, I'm available this time, and we can find our stride and go into the playoffs as one of those hot teams to look out for. If you're Jaylen, you have to think that way, especially throughout this recent stretch where he's been going off.
Well, I hesitate to call it a tank, Josue, because it's not a tank. I'm not selling.
That's how they're going to feel like it is.
So what are you calling it, Bobby? If that's not what it is, what are you calling it?
Bobby, you can't trick these guys.
There's no Jedi mind tricks you can play that can make people see it for something that is not. It's tanking. That's what we're talking about.
Don't insult their intelligence.
Let me describe exactly what I'm.
Competitively challenged. What are you calling it?
Let me describe exactly what I'm talking about here. You trade Schroeder by the deadline. That's it. That's the only change you make. Is anyone crying in the locker room? Is anyone saying we can't compete anymore? So there you go. You can have a little bit of both worlds. You keep Richardson for competitiveness. Al's obviously still here. Maybe you get off Wancho.
So
whatever.
That's what this is all about. It always goes back to Schroeder.
That's the obvious one. Forget
at the end of the day.
He's gone after.
That's what this is about. The long con.
John, don't lie. You got mad today. You were mad today.
What? Oh God.
Yeah, he's gone. We know he's gone, Bobby.
You were
Your
doing
wishes
the
will
speak
come
the
true.
text on some rage shit.
So it's an obvious move to make.
I was raging. I was raging a little. Look, I mean,
you guys had two different debates. I feel like
there's a difference.
Is any argument for keeping him?
No, there's not. But again, we're conflating that with whether or not he has value. If your goal is to win games now, Dennis Schroeder helps you. Even if sometimes he pisses you off, he helps you. Richardson helps you. If your goal is to develop younger players and see if you can build some assets for the future, you dangle Richardson and Schroeder and Al and see if anyone wants to pick them up because they want veterans for the stretch run. And that's a win-win. Then you play kids and you have assets. I'm fine with that. But if you're telling me that your goal is to win games this year, then you keep Schroeder just for this year and ride him out. There's no question about it. You're better for it. So you do what Ime's doing now.
Let's just take an honest look.
You play 8 or 9 guys most of the minutes, and that's it. And that's how you hold you. And you know. And that's how you win games, or that's how you win as many games as possible. But I don't want to do that. I would sell every single thing that anybody wants that has no long-term future with you. And then play whatever's left. At 100, if you can get anything for them, yes.
Here's the issue with trying to win and compete down the stretch here. Chicago, Brooklyn, Miami, Milwaukee, Philadelphia, Cleveland, Charlotte. All those teams seem better than you, even if you play at your highest level here. So you're in the play-in tournament, you end up against a Chicago or Brooklyn round 1 again, and that really caps what you're able to accomplish there. Even if you get to 6, you're getting Miami or Milwaukee round 1. You just face a tough path to even getting out of the first round there. So that's the case for John's path there. Now, I understand what Jimmy's saying, too. There's a potential you demoralize the team if you go too far in that regard with Richardson, Al. I don't even think you can trade Al this year with that contract, but Richardson and Schroeder, let's say, and then it's the floodgates for Romeo and Pritchard and Neesmith there. There's a chance that wears down on those guys, but I think the maddening inconsistency you're going through right now, which I think is just endemic of this roster, is frustrating as well. So I leaned in John's direction. I'm not throwing away Richardson for nothing. You probably want something back for him.
Yes.
Schroeder, you probably get a second-round pick. Like, that's
Come
it
to the dark side, Bobby.
So I think they're just the moves you really have to consider long and hard to. I mean, well, what are we talking about here? What's the accomplishment you get out of this season by really trying to win?
Nothing, Bobby. This is it,
John. You're an enabler, and in like 2 months, he's gonna be sipping some drink, talking like this, and we'll be watching the last game of the Celtics season. That's what's gonna happen.
Listen, I've been watching this team all year. We know who they are. You know,
totally. We knew who they were before the season started. We knew who they were. I mean, they're actually somehow they're worse than I didn't think they were going to be good at all.
I just don't think you should.
We knew who they were last year, guys.
Right?
You can't fool Tatum and Brown.
What do you think Tatum and Brown think is going on right now?
No. What I mean by fold is if you were to trade all your parts like that,
they don't care
without making it obvious that you're.
That's true. They might just not care about anything.
You think Tatum and Brown are going to be like, oh no, you traded Schroeder? No, man.
No, they're not going to care right away. But when the losers start really stacking up, they're going to say, well, wait a minute. What happened to our pieces here?
Yeah, but here's the thing. You got to remember that those two guys, when you look at where they first joined forces, every damn year since then, they've won fewer games. They haven't been able to get nearly as deep into the playoffs. So they know at some point, just common sense, there has to be a reset. There has to be a scorch the earth. Let's figure out how to get back to where we were 4 or 5 years ago. And that's going to require you to get rid of some folks. They totally get that. The last thing that I'm worried about is them thinking that I got to go somewhere else to go win. They know they can win here. They just don't have the pieces around it. And you got to get rid of stuff.
Sherrod,
I think they think this year was their fresh start, Sherrod. I think that's the thing they're getting a tough lesson of, they're getting that they're going through their growing pains, which is good. You want that, but at the same time, you want to also keep the roster relatively competitive. You don't want to start selling.
You can do both. You can absolutely
do both.
You absolutely can do
Especially
both.
with Schroeder.
That's the good
Removing Schroeder from this situation doesn't hinder their winning ability, their competitiveness
No.
ability at all. It really doesn't. He didn't play in the
What
full
pisses,
I'm
people
gonna argue-
off, Bobby,
Yeah.
is when you say that he's in the way of Pritchard's development. Like, that's a whole different conversation. Like, that's
He's a better
No, I think
shooter.
Pritchard is in the way of Pritchard's development more than anyone. I think Pritchard is the issue.
probably.
I think there's a chance that you give those
He dropped
minutes to
92 in
Pritchard.
a pro-am and things changed, I guess. I don't know.
There is
Hasn't been
the same
this
He hasn't
team
been the same since. Like,
this team over the course of 80-something games with Schroeder and Richardson and without them is no different than a 2 to 3 win swing. I mean, and maybe in either direction. You can't convince me otherwise. There is no way that all of a sudden those guys get traded for some future asset and the team just tanks. There is no way that happens.
The other guys are going to step up, get a little more comfortable, and start playing better. I think there's a chance
That's
that if
exactly
you replace,
the point. It's helpful. It's actually helpful.
Yeah.
It forces the issue.
and you don't
There's
have
a difference
shooting right
between
now.
And I like
consolidating
Richardson a
and
lot.
selling off parts, though. There's a difference. If you consolidate, or if you're just going to sell them for future picks, I don't know. I don't know where that puts you.
Yes, you have to start stacking. You have to, take
You're in
a
a
step. You have to
terrible
take a
long-term
step back to
position
take
right
two
now.
steps forward. Your long-term prospects are very poor right now. If you can give up something that isn't really going to affect the overall makeup of your team and isn't part of your future for anything that's going to possibly help you in the future, you do it, because those picks, whether they turn them into something, they become assets that you can stack together with other things and maybe roll up into something better and get a trade, get a third piece. You need to start amassing more stuff. And so you need to do it by trading pieces and developing what you have. And it's not that hard.
You know who you want, John.
They're stuck in this mindset of, we're competitive, and they're in their own way the last year and a half with this.
John, you know who you want.
Yeah, but one of these
The
guys
guy
is supposed
who
to
is-
block too, John. That's the thing.
The guy-
Between Romeo and Neesmith, one of those guys is supposed to crack this rotation by now, and that hasn't happened.
Probably right.
Right.
You're probably right.
Seriously,
I don't
that's
disagree.
Probably right.
That's where I am
But-
with this particular group.
Bobby, what were you going to say?
Yeah, sorry, Bobby. Go ahead.
Well, I'll finish it up by saying that, Schroeder's probably done enough from a shooting regard to step into that spot, right? And John hinted at this earlier, too, that he's not necessarily a development guy. He's a guy who is where he is, steps into that spot, and maybe gives you a little something that you don't have right now that you probably need. I mean, Pritchard played pretty good over those weeks that Schroeder was out there, but the guy you ultimately want was on the other side tonight. Did you guys see some of the stuff Domantas Sabonis was doing out there from a passing standpoint?
Thank you, Bobby. Welcome to the show, Bobby. I'm glad to have you.
He is phenomenal.
Yeah,
What do
come
you
on, he
have,
wasn't
10
here.
assists?
He had a
Oh,
triple-double
my
tonight.
Lord.
He was
He
triple-double.
was just, and a couple guys blew it for him on some beautiful passes. He was just electric, and that's the kind of guy.
He's a good
that
ball
if you
player,
can-
man.
If you
Bobby,
can-
imagine him with
really
Tatum
is.
and Brown.
Missed
Imagine
around and got a
Sabonis.
if you put him with Tatum and Brown, boom, mystery solved. That's what's going to glue.
You're
everything
not putting him
together.
with
He's
Tatum and
gonna-
Brown.
We're not doing
Playmaking,
this right now.
playmaking, big
You're trading Jalen
facilitator.
Brown for him if you want him.
It's 2022,
You're gonna-
and it's 11:30. No, we're not doing this right now.
You're going to put Rob in the best position to be a trade piece by the end of the year. You're going to amass all your future picks because they're useless. You need to get a guy in here now who can help Brown and Tatum. So you're going to amass as many picks
Yeah,
as
but
you
I don't
can.
think Sabonis is the guy. But I see what you're saying, though. I see what you're saying.
And then you send
Keep going,
Smart
Bob.
over too because they're trying to do a soft rebuild. Smart's the guy who helps them, and rather than a tanking team who doesn't want Smart at
Okay,
all.
that's great. You can't get Sabonis. Not
Yes,
unless
you
you
can.
give up Jalen. You can't get Sabonis.
Yeah,
no,
there's no
you
way.
can't.
Without
Why
Jalen,
not?
You can't. Because you
Why
can't.
not?
Because the Pacers aren't stupid.
Because Robert Williams isn't Sabonis.
They
That's
might be.
why.
Because the other teams aren't stupid. They're not.
What if
Here's
Rob
another
plays like-
reason.
What if Rob plays like this the rest of the way?
John, you had a debate with me earlier in this show that Rob was by far the better player tonight and all this stuff.
He
about what
He was,
did
but
defensively.
He was.
So okay,
tonight.
okay. So he obviously has the skill and he's on the rise.
Doesn't matter. They want an all-star for an all-star. They're not trading him for a.
You've said that Rob has all-star capabilities and possible defensive player of the year capabilities.
I mean, we can do this, Jimmy, but the reality is they're not trading for Rob because the whole point of our conversation was if we're even talking about Rob on Sabonis' level, then Rob's arrived. He's not on Sabonis' level. That's how we
He's not.
started
That's
the
why you have to
conversation.
add
We don't
picks.
even think
That's
that.
why you have
What do
to
you
add
think?
Smart.
What
Like,
Not going to
No.
happen.
it's not a one-for-one trade, obviously.
No, it's a bunch of picks.
Right, but he would
and
be
some
the
other young
centerpiece.
guys.
It's none of that. It's none of that. You could give them.
centerpiece.
You could tell them. You could tell
Well,
the
what's
Pacers.
the point of trading Brown for Sabonis?
There's no point. The point is stop talking about Sabonis unless you're going to offer Brown. That's the point. Just if you tell the Pacers, if you start the conversation with the Pacers by saying we want Sabonis, you can have anybody but Jalen. They just hang up. They just hang up. They're like, we want nothing else you have.
Right now,
you can offer them all of it. They want none of it.
Right now, but you up the picks. You got guys that's playing better by the end of the year. You focus on some development here, and maybe you have some guys that look better to them. And again,
Bobby, this is what you're.
Bobby,
this is what you're. I think you're ignoring. You have the best player in the deal right now, unless it's Jaylen Brown. If you're Indiana, and if you've got the best player in the deal, why are you going to get rid of him when you're not going to get a comparable player of significance in return? You're giving up a young all-star in Sabonis for you to do that deal for a guy who might be an all-star versus a guy like Jalen who is a
no. There's a chance they trade Turner
and Miles Turner standing there like, really, guys?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and
you could trade in Turner instead. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and if you're talking about Turner, that's something that I think Indiana. When you talk about the spare pieces that the Celtics have, not named Jaylen Brown.
Yeah,
you might be able to.
I'm not as interested.
Yeah,
that's where the conversation begins and ends. If you're Indiana, that's the problem.
Exactly.
Well, but
it's like
Indiana's going nowhere either.
Kind of stuck with that.
We had this in 2020. We had this exact same conversation.
Indiana's not going
Josue warned us not to do this. He warned us not to do this
about 7 minutes ago.
No, you got to do it. I mean, we can do it. We can do it a little more on Wednesday because they're playing the Pacers again. But listen, these are two teams that I think, looking at where they are perfectly aligned to make a deal. Let's say they really, really drill a hard bargain and say, we'll give you some extra stuff here to get Brown with Sabonis. So maybe you end up with Brogdon and Sabonis in a deal like this. You send back Brown and Smart. Then all of a sudden it's kind of this mega deal where both teams kind of swap their middle parts there. That's a tricky one to swallow if you're Boston, because I do think the value of Sabonis is that he connects the Jays there. But you do end up getting a pretty high-level point guard in Brogdon back in that kind of deal. So that's one that intrigues me when it comes to Brown deals. Again, I'm not a guy who wants to trade Brown.
I hate that one.
Seeing
what
he did out there
as a Pacers guy, I like that one.
Seeing what he did out there tonight.
You like it for your Pacers.
I'm not in the camp of trading Brown. I'm nowhere close even. But that is one construction of a deal that I think could make some sense for both teams. I mean, again, Indiana's trying to do a soft rebuild here. They're not trying to blow it up. They're trying to change up some parts here. That's sort of what Boston's looking at trying to do too here. So these teams, even if it's in a bigger deal with multiple teams, could really make something happen here. And I think that's the only path that there is to Boston making a significant franchise-changing deal in the offseason. Now, none of this is going to happen by the deadline. That's why I advocate just kind of seeing the different pieces you have to be able to
I know. Just wish you did it last year. Wish you did it in an
we screamed about it last year. Yeah.
In an obviously lost season last year,
Totally.
It's a disease. I don't know. It's endemic right now in this team.
I still think that Hayward swap was a miss. I don't care. I'm holding on to that.
Clearly,
Hayward for Turner and Dougie McBuckets. I still think you make that
clearly because that became Fournier and it became Richardson and then it became a TPE.
And it's going to become a second-round pick.
I still don't like Turner.
The conversion went all the way.
Turner's not great, man.
I don't like Turner at all. Did you even
know
he's not out there tonight?
No, I forgot, and I was looking. He was out for a spell. Then he checked in late for defensive purposes. He's not. His offensive
that's exactly
game,
what I said at that time.
His offensive game never developed. I mean, he's leading the league in blocks, though, right?
Yeah, he's a great defender. He just has no role in that offense.
But the idea of him being a stretch guy and being able to shoot threes consistently just never fully materialized.
And he have a shooter.
Yeah. He's just not that guy. He likes to shoot. He's just not a shooter.
Right.
He's a shot chucker. Let's be honest. That's who he is.
So he steps out back there. And again, it's a respectable amount. 35% from three this year. It's not terrible. He's just not outstanding at anything offensively. And he's kind of got klutzy Rob hands sometimes too, So
he'd be good in another situation. I think of him in Charlotte as a dream. The Knicks have certainly been showing interest in him, as reports showed today. And there's teams that I think would like to take a flyer on him, but nobody's knocking down Indiana's doors to take him. So they're in a tricky spot where, yeah, they'd rather probably start this rebuild by trading Turner and keeping Sabonis, but I don't think they get a lot for Turner. I mean, they've been trying to trade him for years, it seems like, and no one really wants him. So at that point, do they open their ears a little bit to making Sabonis available and going forward with Turner? That might be something that they have to consider there. And I don't know how many teams are blowing down their doors for Sabonis either, honestly. Like, there's a few. Golden State could walk down that road. They're certainly got the most to offer. I can think of a few others there, but I do think Boston would be kind of the front of the line in terms of teams that he makes sense with. So again, keep an open mind to that and just how they could end up getting to a deal there with Indiana.
Bookmark this episode, Bobby. Bookmark this episode.
The Pacers aren't in like this.
I don't think so.
The Pacers aren't in a position where they can just keep running this back.
What happened?
I think he froze.
I think we lost him.
All right, good. He'll keep going forever, so let's end the show.
Damn, John.
Yeah.
You're going to see this, right?
Nothing personal.
Quick, everybody get out of here. Yo, good show, everybody. Thanks.
Everybody run. Bye.
Yeah, this is not a taping, bro.
All right. Good to see everyone. We'll see you Wednesday.
Somebody's
gonna
come up with
Jimmy's back. Damn. Hey, Bobby.
What are we just gonna yell? What are we just gonna yell about the problems all night? Let's come up with some solutions. I got a solution here for the issue.
Okay.
We all heard it too. We all heard it. It was good.
I'm here for it.
No, let him wrap up. Though. What were you saying?
No, give it.
No, that's all I got. We'll see you again on Wednesday. Same team. We can have the same discussion.
That's the sad thing. We're gonna have the same debates all over again. Assuming this game is just as boring as this one.
Well, this team doesn't keep winning. Well, we'll see. No, either way, we're gonna have this discussion. What am I saying?
I'm gonna have my Sabonis. I'm gonna have my Sabonis facts with me for Wednesday. I'm gonna have all.
Jimmy, you should be with me. You love this team.
He loves them.
I am with you. Bobby.
Let's go.
I love
it's
you,
always
Bobby.
good with me.
I am with you.
From the minds that brought you Tristan Thompson and Kemba's gonna get healthy. We have part 3 of Jimmy and Bobby coming together.
Yeah, we're due. We're totally due.
It should be like our commercial right there.
Those are the last 2 ideas me and Jimmy joined forces on.
Yeah, I like it.
Oh gosh.
When I see Sabonis play, he's just polished. He's ready to go. You know?
How great is he? Oh my, it is a joy to watch.
And he's got NBA blood in him. I mean, Arvydas Sabonis is a legend. So that's all I needed to hear.
Can we move on from the Sabonis love fest? I mean, he's a good player, but his team sucks.
I'm ready. His team sucks.
Yeah. How about this? They're playing the Pacers again on Wednesday.
The Pacers. Let me say this real quick about the Pacers.
We can talk about Sabonis for the next 48 hours.
No, we
guys.
won't. I just want to say this about the Pacers. Talk about a team that's been screwed with injuries and health issues over the last couple seasons. It's the Pacers. They should have been way better than they were record-wise, but they've since from all the way down the line, every single important player on their team has been hurt over the last few seasons, and that's why they're at the point now where they have to do something, I guess.
Okay. Good night, everybody.
That's my spiel on the Pacers.
Thanks for coming out, Jimmy. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Good stuff, Jimmy.
Thank you for watching. We're back on Wednesday. Same 2 exciting teams.
Hey, something got to be careful. That crowd over there, they don't mess around.
John, you're supposed to sell the show. Come on.
No. People are here. They know what they're getting.
Yes. If they're still watching, then they're diehard.
They know what they're getting.
They're day ones.
But yeah, good stuff. We're back. Right,
wow.
Exactly.
Touchdown, Georgia.
Touchdown, Georgia. So Bama with the ball, and they need a touchdown and the 2 to get it to overtime. So we'll let you guys go watch the rest of that. In the meantime, subscribe to our YouTube channel, please. If you haven't already, you'll be notified every time we go live. Yeah, and a lot of good content over there as well. And that's
the best part about it. You get a notification, and it's like, oh, Jeff Goodman's show's coming on. Oh, shoot. Oh, Hey, Sherrod, the A-list podcast is coming on. Like, you get that notification right away.
It's happening. I love this. So make sure you check it out. Sherrod's got a podcast.
Dome Theory tomorrow. We're talking
busy week too with
There you
Patriots playoffs. There's a lot going on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, check us out over on the Patriots side too. We got a lot of stuff this week. Evan Lazar will be heading over to Buffalo. Sherrod's got a podcast dropping tomorrow, I believe. Is that right, Sherrod?
Should be coming out tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah. A-List Podcast, subscribe to that. Dome Theory, Causeway Street. Check us out at clnsmedia.com. Bobby Manning will have a full write-up of this game and all the stuff you need to know. Until then, thanks